There's a moment every person dreads, but may never admit. The moment they realize they miscalculated. They thought they had the other person figured out. They assumed they were predictable, emotional, and easy to manipulate. So, they tested them. They pulled away, played their little games, all while expecting one thing: that the other person would always come running back. But now, the game has flipped, and they're the one feeling the sting. At first, they felt powerful. They controlled the rhythm of the relationship. If they wanted attention, they dropped just enough breadcrumbs to keep the other person interested, but never enough to fully commit. They knew exactly when to respond, when to ignore, and when to make the other person question themselves. For a while, it worked. The other person reacted just as expected. Texting first, seeking validation, trying to fix things. The person felt in control, knowing they could pull away any time and still have the other person waiting in the background. Then something happened that they never saw coming. The other person stopped playing. There were no dramatic goodbyes, no long paragraphs, no desperate attempts to get an explanation, just silence. At first, they didn't take it seriously. They're just mad. They'll be back. Then days passed, then a week and another. Suddenly, they're the one checking their phone. They post something, expecting a reaction, but get nothing. They throw a little bait, hoping the other person will bite. Still, nothing. They start wondering if maybe the other person is just waiting for them to reach out. But they're not. That's when the panic sets in. Now, they're the one feeling the loss. They thought they had all the time in the world to decide what they wanted. But now, they're realizing that they weren't the ones deciding it all. Nothing stings more than realizing you were never in control. At first, they try to downplay it. They're just being dramatic. They'll be back, they tell themselves. They assume that the other person is just trying to teach them a lesson and that eventually they'll break and reach out. So, they wait, and wait, and wait. But something is off. The other person isn't reacting the way they expected. They're not watching their stories like before, not reaching out to check in, and not giving any proof that they're still emotionally attached. Now, they're starting to sweat. They weren't prepared for this version of the other person. They were expecting the one who always made the first move, the one who couldn't handle silence. But now, the other person is treating them like an afterthought. That's terrifying for them. So now they start playing defense. They throw out signals, hoping the other person will react. Maybe a cryptic post on social media about the challenges of real love, or liking an old picture of theirs. But when they see the other person doesn't take the bait, the game they started suddenly isn't fun anymore. Here's the truth. People love the chase when they're in control. But when they feel like they're the ones being ignored or forgotten, that's when the game turns into a nightmare. And now, they're trapped in the very cycle they thought they had the other person in. They check their phone more often, hoping to see a message. They get frustrated when they realize the other person is actually fine without them. They start wondering, did they actually move on? For the first time, they're feeling the exact emotions they once made the other person feel. And suddenly, it's no longer a game. It's a wake-up call. They try to tell themselves it's nothing, that they're just curious, maybe just checking in for fun. But deep down, they know that's a lie. Because the more they see the other person thriving without them, the more they start to panic. At first, they were convinced the other person would always be there, waiting for them. They thought that no matter what, they could always come back and find the other person emotionally invested, eager to prove themselves, desperate for another chance. But now, they're realizing they may have overestimated their hold on them. And that realization burns more than anything. They start noticing little things that mess with their head. Maybe a mutual friend told them the other person has been going out more. Maybe they see a post where the other person looks confident, not like someone heartbroken, but like someone who's leveled up. And the worst case scenario, seeing the other person with someone else. Let's be honest. It was never really about wanting the other person all to themselves. It was about knowing they could have them whenever they wanted. And now, for the first time, they're realizing that option might be gone. So, what do? They test. They send something vague, maybe a random message, maybe a reaction to an old inside joke. Not because they genuinely want to reconnect, but because they need to know if they still have access to the other person. If the other person responds, even casually, they win. Because in their mind, it means they still have a space in their life. It means the door is still open. It means they're not really over them. No matter how silent you've been, if you see her message and don't react, if you keep living your life as if she never existed, that's when reality sets in. That's when she realizes, for the first time, she's the one who's been left behind. And that feeling, that's the real punishment. Because the truth is, she never expected to lose you. She never expected to actually feel your absence. She thought she could string you along indefinitely, keep you as a backup plan, always be the one in control. But now, she's the one feeling powerless, and that's what makes her suffer the most. She starts feeling something she never thought she would regret. At first, she brushes it off, convincing herself she just misses the attention, not necessarily you. She tells herself, I just got used to him always being there. But as more time passes, that excuse starts feeling weaker. Because if it was just about attention, why does it feel so personal? Why does seeing you live your life without her sting so much? Why does she feel a pit in her stomach when she realizes you're no longer waiting for her? And that's when she starts spiraling. She replays old conversations, looking for clues she might have missed. She rewrites history in her head, telling herself she didn't mean to play games. She starts convincing herself that maybe, just maybe, you were the right person at the wrong time. But here's the thing. It's never her fault. In her mind, she won't admit she lost someone great because she didn't value them when she had the chance. No, she'll blame timing, circumstances, even you for pulling away too soon. But deep down, she knows the truth. She knows she could have had something real. She knows she had someone who was ready to give her his full attention, effort, and loyalty. But instead of appreciating it, she tested it. Now, she's the one being tested. Before, she always had a safety net. She could pull away, disappear for a while, and still come back, knowing you'd be there. But now, that net is gone, and she's falling. The worst part? She can't just come back like nothing happened. She knows she played the game for too long, pushed things too far, and now she's afraid of one thing more than anything else: rejection. Because if she reaches out and you don't respond, if she throws out bait and you don't bite, if she finally realizes what she lost, but you've already moved on, then she has to face a truth she was never ready to accept. She was never as important to you as she thought she was. And that will haunt her. every time she meets someone else, every time she tries to replace you, every time she sees someone else treating her the way you used to, she'll wonder if she made the biggest mistake of her life. And no matter how much she tries to ignore it, no matter how much she tells herself she doesn't care, one thought will always creep into her mind. What if I never find another person like him? That's when the game she started finally comes back to destroy her. She's tried to suppress it, tried to convince herself she doesn't care, but now she's at war with her own mind. Every distraction she turns to, other guys, social media, going out more, none of it fills the void. It all feels off, because no matter what she does, no matter who she talks to, your absence lingers in the back of her mind. And the worst part? She doesn't know how to fix it. She thought if she ignored it long enough, the feeling would fade, but instead, it's growing. Now, when she's alone, her thoughts are louder than ever. Every little thing reminds her of you. The inside jokes, the way you used to look at her, the little things about you she never thought she'd miss. And now, she can't escape it. Before, you were always there, ready to respond, ready to fix things, ready to prove yourself. But now you're just gone, and that's terrifying. She scrolls through her phone, debating whether to reach out. She types something, stares at it, deletes it. She's losing the battle with her own pride. Because deep down, she knows if she reaches out and you don't respond, that's the final confirmation that she really lost you. And that's a reality she doesn't know how to face. So instead, she does something desperate. She starts trying to rewrite history. Maybe he was never that great. Maybe I didn't actually care that much. Maybe this is all in my head. She tries to convince herself that she's fine. She posts pictures looking happy, hoping you'll see them. She tells her friends she's so over it. But inside, she's crumbling. Because no amount of pretending, no amount of distractions, no amount of fake confidence can erase the truth. And the truth is, she had someone who truly valued her, and she threw it away. But now, you're the one who got away, and she's the one left with the pain she once thought she was inflicting on you. When reality hits harder than she ever expected, at first, she thought she could. She tries to suppress it. She buries herself in distractions, casual conversations with other people, scrolling endlessly through social media, pretending she's unbothered. But no matter how much she tries to convince herself that you're just another person, her mind refuses to let her forget. And that's when reality hits her like a brick wall. This isn't just about missing you. It's about what your silence represents. Because now, it's no longer a game of push and pull or some temporary break where she assumes she can walk back in whenever she wants. Now, it's about permanence. Now, she's beginning to understand that your absence isn't temporary. It's real. She's forced to face the truth that she may have actually lost you for good. And that thought alone makes her chest tighten, because the moment she realizes she no longer has the power to pull you back in, her regret turns into something much darker. Fear. Fear that she's been replaced. Fear that you truly don't care anymore. Fear that she overplayed her hand and let go of someone she'll never find again. She starts looking for proof that she still matters. This is where desperation starts creeping in. She needs reassurance, something, anything that proves she still has some level of control over you. So, she starts checking your activity. Is he still looking at my stories? Is he liking any of my posts? Is he posting anything that hints at him being upset over me. But when she finds nothing, when she sees that you're just fine without her, that's when the panic turns into full-blown obsession. And here's the irony. She could have prevented all of this if she had just appreciated you when she had the chance. If she had not taken you for granted. If she hadn't assumed you'd always be there waiting for her. But she made a choice, and now she has to live with it. When she finally realizes you're different, that's when it gets really interesting. Because most people eventually fold. Most will cave in, reach out, or send that last text to try and get some closure. But you're different. You're not playing the game anymore. You're not feeding into the drama. You're not reacting, not chasing, not even acknowledging her anymore. And that's what destroys her. Because in her mind, the script was supposed to go differently. She was supposed to walk away, enjoy the attention of others, and then decide when, not if, she wanted to let you back in. But now, she's realizing that choice was never hers to make. Now she's realizing that she wasn't the one holding the power all along. And that's what keeps her up at night. Because now, every time she sees your name, every time she feels the urge to reach out, every time she feels the impulse to reconnect, she's reminded that she's no longer in control. And that's the real suffering. Not losing you, not missing you, but realizing that for the first time, you're the one who truly walked away. There's a moment when she finally stops fighting it. She's exhausted every trick, posting bait, testing your reactions, trying to convince herself she never really cared. But none of it changes the truth. You're gone, and she can feel it. At first, she thinks about reaching out, maybe even apologizing. But then another fear creeps in. What if you don't respond? What if she finally lowers her pride, only to be met with silence? And that possibility alone is enough to stop her. So, instead of taking action, she does nothing. She watches from a distance, waiting for a sign that you still care. But that sign never comes, and that's what breaks her. Not just the regret, not just the realization that she miscalculated, but the fact that the one thing she feared the most has already happened. You moved on without her. And now, she has to live with the consequences.